We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning, second guest of the show, is Mark Cunningham. He's with the Beacon Center, a publisher of the Pork Report, among other things. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we've got a couple phone calls. We'll jump into those and a couple of questions. A lot of people with comments, but be glad to hear some questions, too, that I can pass on to Mark if you want to message us on Facebook. Let's go to, I believe, Jean, who's been waiting. Jean, good morning. Do you have a question, Jean?
No, Nick, I don't have a question this morning, but I do have a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for always being here to share information with us to help us to be informed. Usually, I'm at the dialysis clinic this time of morning, so I don't get to call in as often.
I'm glad you could.
But I just want to take this opportunity real quick to say, if you look around the eyes, matter of fact, the two guests that you just have on now, where they understand the power of detoxing our bodies.
Okay, well, all right, that's something else. You look pretty wide-eyed to me this morning, Mark, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm sorry about that.
That'll wake you up.
All right, we're talking about the property tax increase. All right, let's take care of yourself, Gene. Let's go to Tony. Tony, good morning, Tony. Do you have a question? Go ahead, buddy.
Got something important I want to ask you and Mr. Cunningham.
Sure.
I got some relatives and friends who live out in Bordeaux area. What people are overlooking, they got a big gas company is running pipeline right down the creek and the river off West Hamilton. And they're building a big building construction behind people's houses and subdivisions. Carl Dean was not supposed to sell that land. The mayor was during the flood. He sold that land, got federal funds off of it, and used it on amphitheater. Nobody wants to look into it. These people are terrorized out there. My relative was terrorized. You got a big old pipeline running all the way down West Hamilton.
I remember, that issue, and maybe let's not go into that too much, Mark, but I do want to jump on the point that he said, yeah, we've seen mayors in the past sell pieces of metro property, and you kind of touched on it earlier. Do you think that's a viable option, potentially, the city maybe looking at some pieces of land and selling them off to raise money in this situation?
I think that should always be on the table, especially when you're in a budget shortfall. And again, I mean, Mayor Dean is one of the best guys. He's great personally, but I mean, the amphitheater thing was a disaster. I think anything that we have as a piece of land, when you're this much in debt, everything needs to be on the table. And I think that's what I'm talking about. Instead of just saying, oh, we need to tax people 32%. Every single thing that we own needs to be on the table. And then, most importantly, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. And if we sell land or we do something like that, that's a short-term solution that can maybe help to close the budget gap. But after that, you need to actually fix your finances. And I think that's our biggest thing is this can't just be a one-time property tax increase or even just selling all the land. We need real reform. And I'm hoping that Mayor Cooper is willing to make it. He seemed to be open to it so far.
And I want your take on this as the Beacon Center's observed politicians and the politics of all this, all right? I mean, just the way this plays out and why you get in this situation. Politicians just, I think, Mark, seem to love the idea of having some shiny big project that can be their legacy when they leave office. You can look around our city and see a lot of this. Well, I did this, I did this. And of course, none of them like the idea of, cutting back on things or any kind of property tax. And they're very interested in bringing industry in here to bring jobs, which they can tout, even though there's a giveaway to get that. I mean, I just wonder, can it be fixed? I mean, we elect these people and we hear what they say, but then when they get into office, I mean, you just wonder if politics take over and they're not going to go into anything that might at least negatively affect them, and they'll just push it ahead to the future for someone else to deal with.
Well, your analysis is spot on. I mean, that's exactly what happens a lot of the time. Even people who seem great, they get in there and they don't do it. But I will say again, I've been really encouraged with Mayor Cooper, he really has been. He's one of the few council people when he was on council who was against these corporate handouts. And as mayor, he's done a really good job of trying to renegotiate. He's not giving out so many handouts. And I hope that his leadership will hopefully help people down the line. And we have really seen, I think, a changing in the past 5 to 6 years of people's opinions of that. Where if you would have said 6, 7 years ago, do you like tax incentives for businesses? Most people would say yes. Now they're starting to see some of the issues, and they're seeing the problem for small businesses who don't get these same handouts. So I do think the tide is turning on this. And a lot of times, like you said, I think politicians actually move with public opinion, rather than because they believe something or when they get a new position, they don't have that same view. But as public opinion moves on this, we has substantially, especially on sports subsidies, sports stadium subsidies. I think the politicians will follow, and that's what I'm hoping, that public support will be enough to keep Mayor Cooper on the right track, and maybe convert some of those people from the council who have been loving to give out our tax dollars to huge corporations in the past.
You know, we have the safe-at-home order, slowly being lifted here in Tennessee, and certainly we all hope that things get back and that the levels of the disease start going down. Is it your belief then, as we sit here, though, that there is a way out of this that can maybe be done, it's not going to be perfect anyway, but without a massive property tax increase? I mean, is there hope there in your mind that can indeed be done?
Absolutely. I'm very hopeful. And again, I really trust Mayor Cooper, despite really disagreeing with this property tax increase that he proposed. I do believe in him, and we have a lot of great assets. And before all this happened, we were one of the hottest cities in the country. I mean, we're going to get the sales tax revenue back. We need a lot of this other stuff back from tourists, the hotel motel tax, all of these taxes. So we have a lot of money coming in. We just have to stop spending so much. So yes, I think that this is a tough situation. I think no matter what happens, nobody's going to be fully happy, whether it's a small tax increase, whether it's no tax increase, but cutting a lot of services or selling land. Nothing that he's going to do is going to make everybody happy. But with that being said, I feel positive. I think we have a mayor who understands finances. He ran on being kind of a fiscal hawk, and I'm thinking that over the next year or two, I think that we can hopefully fix this problem. I think Mayor Cooper's up to the task, regardless of this bad proposal he's made. For the most part, he's been really, really good financially. I think that we have a bright future ahead still once we fix this problem.
All right, let's take a quick call for you before we have to run out of time. And Ron just called in. So, Ron, good morning. What's your question for Mark? Ron, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Are you there, Ron? Well, he started, and it looks like we just lost him. The wonders of electric technology. At least we haven't lost our signal with you, Mark. And so I think we lost Mark.
Maybe know how long my hair's gotten and didn't want to ask me a question. So that's it.
Well, I apologize. His phone seemed like it just cut off right off the bat there. Yeah, it is interesting that you say this, and I have seen this. You're right. With everything from the soccer stadium deal and some of the stuff with hockey, Mayor Cooper, from the time he took office, seems to have tried to do this. And so you're saying these things about this mayor. Despite the fact that he's come forward and you hear him saying, I know people hate this, I hate this, but this is the way we're going right now. I mean, you can see the two sides of this for this sitting mayor right now.
Well, yeah, I think even good mayors make bad choices, and I think that's what this is here. And of course, I understand he sees this budget shortfall, and what's the easiest way, I guess, for him to fill it would be just a huge property tax increase to balance the budget. Of course, that's not what we believe in, and obviously we're not politically completely aligned with Mayor Cooper, but we have a lot in common. And making one bad decision doesn't make you a bad mayor, and I think that he has. I mean, he's been open to our feedback in the past, unlike some other mayors, Mr. Briley specifically, but he's been open to some of that, and I think that hopefully this was just a thing that he put out there to begin with, and he's willing to negotiate and bring that down or get rid of it completely if you can find ways to meet that spending. Maybe if you can sell the amphitheater, maybe you can sell land, that he is open to doing. I mean, this was a proposal. It's not anything that passed. It's not anything that's written in stone. So we're hoping this was just a first attempt at seeing what the reaction would be. And from my perspective, everybody from the left to the middle to the right is certainly against this high of a property tax increase. Again, when Freddie O'Connell is saying something, who has never agreed with us on anything, that it's too high, there's some real problems with it. So I think that we're going to have a lively discussion. And ultimately, I do expect that we're going to go down, if not completely removed. And we just have to figure out exactly how to get that money. And I'm not a budget expert, but I hope that his people are working day and night right now to figure out how to make this work without raising property taxes.
Okay, so just saying this, and again, like you said, you're not in there as an expert along those lines, but let's just say you are on the council all of a sudden, and you're in a position to be, discussing this when they have their meetings leading up to the vote, coming up here in a not too distant future, and you realize that to get something, it's going to have to be some kind of compromise, perhaps, and so. Can you see a situation here where maybe whatever this property tax increase is substantially lower, coupled perhaps with some further cuts somewhere along with maybe the sale of some properties?
Well, I mean, ultimately, what we're saying right now is that we are completely against this property tax increase, the 32%. I couldn't see a situation where we'd ever be for a property tax increase based on what we believe in. But of course, there's different levels of bad, and of course, compromise. I mean, I'm not in government, but if they're compromising, I mean, that's at least better than what we're getting now.
Yeah.
So I think that you look at even with the corporate welfare thing, like we're against corporate welfare completely, but there's different levels of how bad they are. We give a cash handout to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, right? That's a lot worse than giving maybe a slight rebate to workers for a medium-sized business. So I think we would be against it no matter what. But I think there's different levels, and I think that either way, before you can ever propose a property tax this high, you need to look at doing every possible thing you can from your perspective, which hasn't been done yet. And I really do hope the mayor and the council and the mayor's staff are looking into that right now, because the 32% increase is just unacceptable, and it's unacceptable to everybody across the board. And
I think that's exactly what they're going to be doing between now and mid-June when they end up voting for it. But certainly seems to me that, the sentiment out there right now is not a good time for this, and that they would like to see a different option out there available for folks. It's not fair, is it, right now, to ask people to pay this in a situation where so many of them are out of work right now. That's part of it. But what I also hear coming away from you right now is whatever the solution is that comes out of this, it sounds like the Beacon Center is very determined to say, all right, we ended up in this pickle for a reason. We need to go back and look at why this is and set things in place so this never happens again. And what you're talking about, in your opinion, is corporate handouts or the like, so we never find ourselves in this pickle when this is such a fantastic, lucrative city.
That's right. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So that is why we're saying, like, if we don't stop giving these millions and millions of dollars in tax breaks to corporations and not spending our money responsibly, we're going to be New York City. We're going to be San Francisco. We're going to be Chicago. These places have to raise their taxes every year or two because they just can't balance the budget. So we don't want to be like that. And for the most part, again, I don't think Mayor Cooper is a crazy, extreme tax and spend liberal. He's not shown to be that way. So we do think we have somebody we can work with and who's been open to us and has talked to us. So our opinion is that we need to fix the long-term problems. No matter what happens here, whether they tax or don't tax, which I mean, we hope they don't tax, but we still need to figure out how to get, we need to fix the underlying issues. So again, so it doesn't happen again. And if a problem like this happens again, because again, there will be some time where there's another crisis. Maybe it'll be a housing crisis. Maybe it'll be another pandemic. We don't know. We need to make sure we have money put away. So during that time, we're not forced to do this. And if you look at the state of Tennessee, they have done a great job and almost the antithesis of what the city of Nashville is doing. We have a big rainy day fund, and we're able to handle this crisis.
I appreciate you joining us this morning, Mark. Thank you so much. And look, as we move forward to this, we'd love to have you join us again if you wouldn't mind. Thank you for that.
Of course, always love being with you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. That is Mark Cunningham with the Beacon Center. We'll hear from him again. We'll take a break. I'll have a programming note right after this.